Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. Kathy H., a 31-year-old carer, reflects on her life, particularly her time at Hailsham, a seemingly idyllic boarding school. She's been a carer for 11 years, tending to donors as they recover from organ donation procedures. She's good at her job, her donors often faring better than expected, a skill she attributes to her instinct and deep empathy for them. Lately, she's been choosing donors she remembers from Hailsham, wanting to reconnect with her past. It's through these choices that she rekindles her relationship with Ruth and later becomes Tommy's carer. Her first memory of Ruth is from childhood, playing in a sandpit. Ruth, a girl with a fiery spirit and strong personality, stood apart, glaring at two other children. Kathy remembers feeling a sense of dread, desperate to avoid Ruth's attention. Years later, at Hailsham, Ruth approaches Kathy in the south playing field and invites her to ride her imaginary horses, sparking their complex friendship. Ruth, always the leader, initiates a secret guard dedicated to protecting their favorite guardian, Miss Geraldine, a kind and gentle woman. The guard believes Miss Geraldine is targeted by a conspiracy involving other guardians and students. Even the woods looming behind Hailsham, a place filled with sinister rumors. They spend their time gathering evidence, but never confront the supposed conspirators. Ruth's dominant role in the secret guard allows her to manipulate the group, creating a sense of authority and belonging. Kathy's early fascination with the enigmatic Madam, who periodically visits Hailsham to collect student artwork for a mysterious gallery, fuels her curiosity about their purpose. The gallery, a whispered legend among students, takes on an almost sacred significance. Kathy remembers a moment when she was very young, feeling a surge of pride when another child suggested her artwork was good enough for the gallery. As they grow older, the students become more possessive of their creations, their value tied to the tokens they receive during the exchanges. This leads to the tokens controversy, a debate over whether students should be compensated when Madam takes their work. During this time, Polly T breaks an unspoken rule by asking a guardian, Miss Lucy, the purpose of Madam's collection. Miss Lucy, a brisk, athletic woman who usually kept her distance from the younger students, replies cryptically that the reason is important but beyond their current understanding. This moment echoes in Kathy's mind years later when she's talking with Tommy beside the pond. Kathy recounts an incident involving Madam that highlights the students' growing awareness of their difference from normals. Ruth, convinced that Madam is afraid of them, devises a plan to test her theory. The children swarm around Madam as she gets out of her car and witness the shudder of fear that passes through her. This encounter marks a shift in their understanding of how they're perceived, a chilling realization of their otherness. The exchanges, where students create and trade art for tokens, become central to Hailsham life. Kathy reflects on the peculiarity of valuing childish poems and drawings above practical items, realizing how the exchanges subtly shaped their relationships and social hierarchy. Tommy, a naturally talented athlete but struggling artist, becomes a target for bullying, his lack of creativity fueling the cruelty. Kathy, noticing the prolonged nature of Tommy's suffering, becomes increasingly concerned and begins documenting the incidents of bullying. One day, after a particularly brutal episode in which Tommy's favorite polo shirt gets muddy, Kathy breaks away from her friends and approaches Tommy, offering comfort and practical advice. This act of kindness marks a turning point in their relationship, leading to a conversation by the pond that reveals a pivotal moment between Tommy and Miss Lucy. Miss Lucy, in a private meeting, tells Tommy that his lack of creativity is perfectly all right. This seemingly innocuous statement has a profound effect on Tommy, boosting his confidence and gradually changing the other students' attitudes towards him. Miss Lucy's words also resonate with Kathy, sparking a deeper curiosity about the hidden meanings behind Hailsham's rituals. She reflects on the purpose of Madam's gallery and questions why their best artwork is taken away. This shared curiosity ignites a conversation between Kathy and Tommy that becomes the cornerstone of their bond, a quest for understanding that continues throughout their lives. Years later, Kathy, now Ruth's carer at a recovery center in Dover, continues these conversations, reminiscing about Hailsham and the peculiarities of their upbringing. Ruth, eager to maintain a positive image of their past, avoids certain topics, perhaps sensing the darker implications of Kathy's questions. Kathy remembers finding a Judy Bridgewater tape, Songs After Dark, at one of Hailsham's sales. The album cover, depicting Judy in a satin dress holding a cigarette, becomes a treasured secret as smoking is strictly forbidden at Hailsham. The song, Never Let Me Go, holds a special meaning for Kathy, her interpretation not matching the lyrics, but resonating deeply with her longing for connection and her fear of loss. One afternoon, while listening to the song and holding a pillow like a baby, Kathy is startled to find Madam watching her from the doorway, tears streaming down her face. This unsettling encounter further fuels Kathy's curiosity about Madam and the underlying purpose of Hailsham. Kathy later loses the tape, and Ruth, sensing the significance of the loss, finds her a replacement at a sale, a thoughtful gesture that rekindles their friendship. This incident underscores the complex dynamics between Kathy and Ruth, their friendship oscillating between rivalry and genuine affection. As they approach their final years at Hailsham, the students' understanding of their future becomes more explicit. During a Rounders game, Miss Lucy delivers an impassioned speech, revealing the truth of their purpose, to become organ donors. This stark revelation, though not entirely unexpected, marks a shift in their attitudes, the carefree days of childhood giving way to a somber awareness of their predetermined fate. Kathy continues to observe Miss Lucy, noticing her increasingly troubled demeanor and secretive behavior. She stumbles upon Miss Lucy in a classroom, furiously scribbling over paperwork, an encounter that further fuels Kathy's suspicions. Tommy, meanwhile, has a second unsettling conversation with Miss Lucy. She retracts her earlier advice about not worrying about creativity, emphasizing the importance of art as evidence. This confusing encounter leaves Tommy disoriented, and Kathy, preoccupied with other events, fails to connect Tommy's changed behavior with Miss Lucy's words. Rumors about deferrals begin to circulate among the older students at the cottages, where Kathy and her friends have moved after leaving Hailsham. Chrissy and Rodney, two veterans, claim to have seen Ruth's possible, the person she was modeled after, working in an office, a perfect match for Ruth's dream future. Kathy remains skeptical, suspecting Chrissy and Rodney's motives. The group embarks on a trip to Norfolk, hoping to find Ruth's possible and to learn more about the deferral rumors. The trip is fraught with tension. Ruth, eager to impress Chrissy and Rodney, excludes Kathy and Tommy from conversations. They locate the office and see a woman who bears a striking resemblance to Ruth, fueling their initial excitement. However, as they follow the woman to an art gallery and observe her interacting with the owner, their hope fades. The woman's ordinary life clashes with the idealized image they held, a stark reminder of their own uncertain future. Ruth, devastated by this realization, lashes out at her friends, declaring that they are all modeled from trash. Kathy, deeply hurt by Ruth's words, refuses to accompany the others to visit a former student who has become a carer. Tommy, sensing Kathy's distress, stays with her, and they embark on a search for a replacement copy of Kathy's lost Judy Bridgewater tape. This shared quest rekindles their connection, a moment of lightness amidst the growing darkness. Tommy reveals his theory about Madam's gallery, that the artwork is used to evaluate the authenticity of couples applying for deferrals. He confides in Kathy about his secret drawings of imaginary animals, hoping that his art might qualify him for a deferral with Ruth. Kathy, remembering the ridicule Tommy faced at Hailsham for his lack of artistic talent, struggles to offer genuine praise. As time passes at the cottages, the students grapple with the realities of their future. The departures of older students become more frequent, and the once cherished essays, a final link to Hailsham, lose their significance. Ruth's attempts to distance herself from Hailsham and forge new relationships with the veterans create further tension between her and Kathy. Ruth reveals to Kathy that Tommy doesn't see Kathy romantically, a revelation that deepens the divide between the three friends. Kathy, feeling isolated and adrift, decides to begin her training as a carer. Years later, as a seasoned carer, Kathy runs into Laura at a service station. Laura, worn down by the demands of caring, expresses regret over the loss of Hailsham and suggests that Kathy become Ruth's carer. This encounter reawakens Kathy's desire to reconnect with her past. She visits Ruth at her recovery center, but their reunion is strained by unspoken resentments and a shared avoidance of the past. A rumor about a stranded boat sparks a renewed connection between Kathy and Ruth, leading to a trip to see the boat and a visit with Tommy at his recovery center. During the trip, tensions resurface. Ruth's declining health becomes increasingly apparent, and Tommy's frustration with Kathy's lack of understanding about the donor experience creates further distance between them. On the roadside, while admiring a poster depicting an open-plan office, similar to the one Ruth had once dreamed of working in, Kathy and Tommy inadvertently provoke a powerful confession from Ruth. She reveals that she deliberately kept Kathy and Tommy apart, believing they were meant to be together. She urges them to seek a deferral, giving them Madam's address. Kathy, skeptical but driven by Ruth's plea, arranges a visit to Madam's house with Tommy. They are greeted by Madam, who, despite her initial coldness, appears more approachable than she did at Hailsham. As Kathy explains their reason for visiting, Madam's tears and repeated questions about whether she's going too far reveal the presence of another listener. Miss Emily, Hailsham's former head guardian, emerges in a wheelchair. Miss Emily confirms that the deferral rumor is false, explaining that it was a persistent myth that resurfaced among students throughout the years. She reveals the true purpose of the gallery, to demonstrate to the outside world that the students, despite being clones created for organ donation, possess souls. She recounts the history of their movement, their efforts to secure humane treatment for students, and the setbacks they faced, culminating in the Morningdale scandal and the eventual closure of Hailsham. Miss Emily explains that the Morningdale scandal, involving a scientist's illegal attempts to create genetically enhanced children, fueled public fear and led to a backlash against their movement. Hailsham, along with other progressive institutions, lost their funding and were forced to close. She expresses pride in the lives they provided for their students, acknowledging the difficult choices they made in order to protect them. As Miss Emily prepares to leave, Tommy asks about Miss Lucy's departure from Hailsham. Miss Emily reveals that Miss Lucy believed the students should be given a more complete understanding of their fate, a view that clashed with Hailsham's philosophy of sheltering them from the harsher realities of their existence. Kathy, questioning Madam's fear of the students, is told that this fear is universal, even among the guardians who dedicated their lives to their care. Miss Emily and Madam depart, leaving Kathy and Tommy with the weight of their shattered hopes and the knowledge that their future is irrevocably set. On the drive back, Tommy expresses his belief that Miss Lucy, who advocated for their right to know, was ultimately correct. Overcome with emotion, he asks Kathy to stop the car, and in a moonlit field, he unleashes a torrent of rage, reminiscent of his childhood tantrums. Kathy comforts him, and as they drive on, she shares her theory that Tommy's rages stemmed from a subconscious awareness of his predetermined fate. Following their visit to Madam's, Kathy notices a subtle shift in Tommy. He becomes more withdrawn, identifying more with his fellow donors and distancing himself from Kathy. He expresses his desire for a different carer, someone who understands the donor experience. Kathy, hurt by his words, walks away, but they later reconcile. Tommy questions Kathy's dedication to caring, prompting a poignant conversation about their diverging paths. As Tommy's fourth donation approaches, they find moments of peace and intimacy. However, their last visit together is marked by a sense of unspoken finality. Tommy reflects on Ruth's death, expressing his belief that she was better off not knowing the full truth of their situation. They part with a shared memory of Hailsham and a quiet understanding of their inevitable separation. Kathy, now facing her own uncertain future as a donor, drives to Norfolk, seeking solace in the vast emptiness of the landscape. She imagines a fantasy where all her lost belongings and Tommy himself wash up on the shore of a vast field, a poignant reflection on the irretrievable losses of her past. As she drives away, she carries with her the enduring memories of Hailsham, Ruth, and Tommy, treasures that no one can ever take away. If you enjoyed this book breakdown, please consider liking this video and subscribing to get notified when we post our next book.